Hello and welcome to the Marketing Times Analytics Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Safranis, and today we're on with Heidi Schalk. Heidi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, Alex, first, thank you for having me on. I am a business strategy coach and also visibility expert, host of the BSHE podcast, which stands for Be Seen, Be Heard, Be Empowered. And we just recently launched another one called Business Growth Spotlight, where we talk with executives and CEOs on what makes their businesses grow. So it's been an exciting journey, but I'm excited to be here with you today and chat with you.
Yeah, no, me too. So from a high level, if you're advising an executive on how to grow their brand, what do you typically start with? What are some of the common pitfalls?
I'm learning a lot by talking to our guests on the Business Growth Spotlight podcast, which is fantastic. We just launched this about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and we're getting a lot of education on what the growth that they've had, what's really worked for them as far as their growth over the years, and what maybe there hasn't worked for them. And what we're learning now is that one of the things that we're seeing for visibility is exactly what you're doing, podcasting. In the as far as being seen, being heard, and getting out there to grow your business in marketing, there's a lot of things that have worked over the past 5, 10, even 2 years that are now slowing down. It's more of a red ocean in certain areas. It's not that we don't need to do them. We still need to be in these spaces, but podcasting is what I'm finding is the blue ocean right now. And that's what kind of we're doubling down on. And we're finding that many of the people that we're talking with, the executives, are starting to enter into that space as well, because they know that it's an avenue that is untapped for them in their market.
And what kinds of podcasts do you recommend that they join? Is it specifically business podcasts or can it be like a lifestyle podcast?
It really depends on where their target market is. So there's two avenues to take when podcasting. You can be a guest or you can host. And right now I'm a big proponent of, if you're in business, starting a podcast, just like you have, Alex, because this is, like I shared, it's an untapped market. There are 460 million listeners right now listening to podcasts, and that's only growing every single day. Podcasts are not going away anytime soon. It's just, think about when you're growing your business, everybody talks about the importance of social media, and social media is highly important. We need to be there. And you should be focused on promoting on the social media platforms that have your ideal client in them. That being said, when being on a podcast, whether you're guesting or whether you're launching, you want to make sure that you are spending your time wisely. Where is your ideal client hanging out? Where are the audience that you want to tap into? What are those podcasts that have your audience in them? And there's a win-win here, because just like I'm here with you, Alex, I'm going to be promoting this out to my audience because I want to support you in growing your audience. And also you're going to be sharing me and my voice and my value to your audience. So we're creating a win-win experience here. So as a host, when I talk to these businesses, how can we create a lead generation opportunity through podcasting? And that happens by bringing on guests that specifically could also be your ideal client. And not everybody is, and that's okay, but there's a way to be podcasting strategically versus just saying, hey, which is what I did 2 years ago. I had a goal. I just wanted to launch a podcast. People were doing it. And I'm like, hey, I want to launch a podcast. And I did. I launched the BSHE podcast. Again, it stands for Be Seen, Be Heard, Be Empowered. And that's a passion project on my heart about empowering women to be seen, be heard, and step into creating something that they want to create and leaving a legacy in the world, whether it's creating an amazing relationship with their partner, with their children, or it's creating a business that they never realized that they could step into. But with this new podcast, it's more of how can I strategically create something that's also going to benefit my guests? It's going to benefit my audience, and it's also going to benefit our business by creating revenue in the process.
You mentioned something interesting. Two things. The business or the executive should basically have people on that are their ideal customer. Is that for that customer's sake so they can close a deal, or is it also to attract other people that are maybe similar in their maybe interests and so forth, so it has that sort of network effect? Like which one is it more about, or is it both?
It's actually both, because when I'm talking to my guests on the podcast for Business Growth Spotlight, we're building our network, which is great. Your network is your net worth. So you want to be bringing on people who, when you create the podcast, if you're not looking to go viral, if you're not looking to create something that, for sponsorship and for monetization, if you're looking to create sponsorships, it's going to be a bit of a journey. Sponsors will come in and pay you to be a sponsor of your podcast, but you have to have quite a following and a specific number of downloads and things for somebody to pay to be on the podcast, especially if you want to drive those bigger numbers for sponsorships. But at the end of the day, podcasting is a platform where, just like social media, it could be an effective lead generation tool if done effectively. And like I said, the goal is to be creating a lot in this process. So one is relationships. Nothing opens the door to creating relationships as a host and a guest talking one-on-one, right? By me getting to know you in this atmosphere, we're creating a relationship we would have never created just by us messaging on social media. There's things that we can do together. Once we leave here, I'm going to see how I can support you more. That being said, when we're bringing on a podcast people that can provide value and are also our ideal client that we can serve in some way, we're creating multiple wins. We're creating value for our audience because we're bringing on an expert that can share expertise to our audience that we can't share as the host. We're creating a relationship with the guest. We're creating co-collaboration in the aspect of co-promotion. So we're promoting them, they're promoting the podcast. And we're now also opening the door for us to share what we can do to help them in their business grow in a way that they don't have that expertise. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's interesting. And certainly a good way to look at guest selection for the
Mhm.
podcast. What about podcast sponsorships for the executive? Should they be paying to appear on other podcasts, or should they focus on just organic, like reaching out to podcast hosts or using a service that could place them?
That's a great question. And I think it really is dependent on that specific company and what their goals are and how far they are along in the podcast guesting journey. So if you're new, if you're an executive, you're a CEO, you're a founder, and we also coach, we're business strategy and visibility. So we work with coaches also. But if you're new to podcast guesting, do not pay. That's my advice. I think you should be doing this organically because as you're getting on more podcasts, you're learning your messaging, you're testing out what your lead magnet is. Is it working? Are you like always have a call to action when you're on a podcast? How can you, when you're guesting, where can you drive that audience to connect with you? Whether it's inviting them to follow you on social media, whether it's grabbing a lead magnet that they can get on your email list, whether it's taking action to get on a call with you so they can connect with you personally, whatever that is, always have a call to action. But in regards to your question, what should they be paying? In my opinion, not at the beginning. If it and it depends on what is the what is the ROI. If you are paying to be on a podcast, really look at the ROI. If you feel the ROI, return on investment, that you're paying to be on that podcast is going to benefit you and it's a no-brainer, then yes. But if you're new to the podcast game and guesting on podcasts and you're still figuring out what that messaging is, you don't really have a call to action, you're still a little nervous, this is new for you. In the B2B space, there's a lot of executives and CEOs and founders, surprisingly, that this is a new avenue for them. They haven't been on many podcasts. I've had many people on my podcast, the Business Growth Spotlight one, where they're like, this is my second podcast interview and I'm so excited to be here. And I'm excited to have them on just to give them that experience, whether they work with us or not. I'm excited to give them that opportunity to start that ball rolling for them, because I know this is a stage, podcasting is a stage that everybody in business, whether you're a coach, you're B2C, or you're B2B, you should be putting in your marketing strategy plan this year. If you haven't already, it should be part of it. And if you do not have a podcast, start guesting. If you do have a podcast, are you monetizing? And if you're not monetizing, where's the gap there, and how can you start monetizing your podcast? And it doesn't, again, it doesn't have to be through sponsorships. That's like the long game, but there's a way to monetize it much more efficiently and effectively by being strategic, like you said, Alex, with who you're bringing on as your guests.
Okay, so what kinds of executives should be appearing on podcasts and which kinds should be creating podcasts? I'm thinking like CMOs or CTOs or even VPs.
It actually depends on the structure of the organization. So it could be a marketing CMO, right? If they're the head of marketing and that's who's out there really talking in the face of the company, then that's who should be doing it. Sometimes it could be the CEO, if that's the person that has the time and they want to really be doing it. So it's going to be different for each company. So the organization really needs to look at who's going to most effectively be able to be the face of this messaging, and who enjoys doing it, who wants to do it. And I would say the CMO is probably many times the person, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's the right fit for everyone. It could be the COO, right? Chief of operations could have that personality where maybe they're juggling both roles, CMO and COO in their role. So it's different for each organization.
Okay. So what about something similar to podcast guesting, which would be speaking at events? How do you recommend that to an executive that is looking to increase their brand? Is that part of what you would recommend?
Absolutely. Speaking at events is great, especially since we're moving a lot to more in-person events since the pandemic. A lot of people are getting out there and they're wanting to be going to in-person events. What I would suggest, whether you're podcast guesting and you're doing virtual or you want to go in person, create a media kit. That's the one thing that you want to have, so that when you are pitching these in-person events and or you're pitching podcast guesting, you have a media kit which shows the host, just like you, Alex, what your talking points are, what your accolades are, your brand, your bio, your profile photo, so they can see who you are, any other stages that you've been on in the process. Have you written a book? What are any awards that you've won? This is a really important piece as far as stepping on to stages. When it comes to getting on stages, there's different types of stages to look out for. And all of them are good depending on what stage of speaking you're in. For example, there's free to free, which means it's a free stage and you're making a free offer. And in this case, it's great because you can move your audience into a lead magnet to join you in your circle. They can join your community, they can get on your email list, and that's a great place to start building that relationship with that audience. There's also what's called free to paid, which means that it's a free stage. You're not getting paid to be there, but you're able to make a paid offer. So if you're a coach and you have a program, then you can make an offer from front of stage to move them into your paid program. Then there is what's called pay to free, which means you're getting paid to be on that stage and you're able to make a free offer. So you're getting paid to be there and you're able to make that free offer to get them onto your email list or have them follow you on social media. So you're building, again, that relationship. And then there's paid to paid, which means you're getting paid to be there and you can make a paid offer, which is a fantastic type of position to be in because you're getting revenue from both sides of it. And then there's what's called a revenue share. And many people don't like this, but I think it's a very lucrative space to be in, especially if you're just learning how to sell from stages and that's one of your goals. If your goal is just to be providing value, then it won't matter. But for those of you who have offers and you want to make offers from stages, a revenue share is a great opportunity to be in because you're sharing the revenue with basically with the event manager or the company that's running the event. And that means it could be a 50-50 split. It could be 60-40, 80-20. But at the end of the day, you are still getting whatever that revenue share is. You're not being paid to be there, but you're splitting that revenue that you're generating from your offer with the host or the event planner. But the great thing about that is anybody that comes into your space, you still can nurture them into future offers that you get 100% of that revenue for. So it's a great, so don't turn that down if that's an opportunity. And then there's what's called a sponsorship stage, which means you're sponsoring. Like you had asked me earlier, Alex, about should people be paying to be on podcasts? It really depends on where you're at. Same thing with the stages. Sometimes there's sponsorship opportunities where you can pay 10, 20 plus $1,000 to be a sponsor of an event and also be a speaker on a stage. Those are great opportunities only if you have proof of concept, only if you have proof that you've been able to sell from stages before, because you want to make sure if you're sponsoring an event and you're able to speak from stage that you can make a paid offer, or you know that you're going to generate that revenue back or more than that revenue to make up for what your sponsorship fee was.
Yeah, that makes sense. So similar to speaking engagements, what about just attending networking events? What's your perspective on that for building your network and your brand?
I believe networking events are key, especially in today's day and age. Collaboration and connection are currency. So the more that you can be networking, and Alex, I'm sure you've heard this, and for your listeners, they may have heard this too. So I don't want to repeat what everybody's already heard, but it took me a while for this to sink in for myself. Your network is your net worth. I used to hear this from when I was probably 15 years old. I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. My father ran two real estate agencies. He was a broker for two offices, highly successful. And I was always non-salesy. I was extremely shy, extremely introverted. And I said I would never go into sales because I saw he was successful at it, but I just didn't think I could be. So I've always heard that your network is your net worth. It's who you know. That's what I grew up learning. It's who you know. But I just never followed that mantra because I was so shy and introverted. But I did learn and through my entrepreneurial journey over the last 6-7 years that it is so true that your network is your net worth. So by being guesting on podcasts, by getting on stages, by even doing live streams with each other. It's not even if you're scared to get on a podcast, you're scared to step on a stage, or you're scared to even pitch somebody to do that. Start by building your community by just going live with somebody and sharing what they do and how you can help them. And then when they're most likely going to reciprocate that, it's called the law of, let me see if I can say this right, the law of reciprocity, right? They are going to reciprocate the fact that you gave them the opportunity to speak in front of your audience. Now they're going to want to give you that same gift in return. So I'm heavily a believer in networking when it comes to stages. And I love that you brought this up, Alex. Networking is important, and don't forget about your stages in your own backyard. Who are those organizations that are in your community that need speakers? Those are networking events. Any networking opportunity, whether it's a virtual dinner or a virtual lunch or a local event, make sure that you're participating in them. People love to help people. And when you're sharing what you're doing and what you're up to, people want to support you, and you have the opportunity to reciprocate and support them in the process. And at the end of the day, the way the world is evolving and growing, anytime you can collaborate, anytime that you can create connection, anytime that you can say, how can I help you? That is going to be key in growing your network, which again will grow your net worth for sure.
Yeah. Would you recommend paying to boost your episode? Let's say it's posted on social and you could put ad dollars behind it to reach more people. Would you recommend that?
In regards to podcasting,
Yeah.
I really think what is the goal to do that? Is the goal to get more followers, or is the goal to get more revenue? If the goal is to get more followers, then I guess, but I'm not going to put money into something that's not going to generate an ROI monetarily. So if I'm investing so many dollars into boosting, then I want $3 to $5 on the return, right? But at the end of the day, I can convert revenue into my podcast more strategically if I'm bringing on the right guests and I'm promoting them. And then some of those guests are turning into clients. In my opinion, that's a much better way of running the podcast and monetizing than trying to boost it. But at the end of the day, it's really about what the goal is. If the goal is to get more followers, then and you're just okay with putting money into that, and you know you have money coming in from other areas and that's going to support that mission, then okay. But for me, that's every dollar I put into something, I want to make sure there's an ROI. So I would say I would focus on ways to monetizing the podcast differently than trying to boost it on social media.
Okay. What about for the guests? So what if they have an opportunity to put ad dollars behind their episode to get it to reach more people? Would you recommend they do that?
If they want to do that and they feel that that's important, I'm not going to complain if it's my podcast. I wouldn't complain if it's your podcast and your guests are willing to do that. I'm all for it. And if they have a call to action that they feel is going to monetize on the back end because they've invested those dollars in boosting it or putting that into promoting it, then I say go for it. Because obviously, if they're doing it, then chances are they've tested that's working for them because they have a specific call to action that has worked for them in the past that they're showcasing on that specific podcast to drive revenue.
So aside from events and podcasts, what else should executives do to build their brand? I'm thinking things like blogging.
Posting on social is a must, and it's not something that we can't not do, right? I think that there's ways to monetize depending on what your goals are to not feel like you have to post all the time. That's one thing about my business that I got burnt out in is okay, I just feel like I'm constantly posting on social and it's not getting me to where I want to go. Social is, in my opinion, a red ocean. Everybody's fighting for the same people. They're trying to get the same audience and they're putting their messaging out, hoping for engagement. If you look at social media as a way to be consistent and showing up for your people that find you and that you resonate with, then I think it's a great way to be boosting your brand. If you're looking for the numbers of what your engagement is and comparing yourself to other people out there who are doing what you're doing, but you're not getting the same engagement, I think then that's going to be a losing game because you're always going to be in that comparisonitis of I'm not good enough. And at the end of the day, we're looking to help one person. If you can help one person every day, that's all that matters. And whether you get 5 responses or 500, if you're helping one person, that's a lot of people you're helping at the end of the year. So social media is a tool. It's free. You should absolutely be utilizing it. Just don't get attached to the outcome and the engagement that you're getting on it. Use it as a give and as for promotion for what you're up to. So if make sure you're making your offers, having your call to action, moving people to your podcast episodes, whether you've been guesting or you're hosting, creating value content, also storytelling. Those are the 4 key pieces for social media that I feel are important. People connect with people. Again, connection and collaboration is currency. People are going to buy from you and work with you because they connected with you, and they can't connect with you if you're always driving sales oriented content. So you want to be driving content that also is sharing pieces about you. I'm not saying that you have to get vulnerable to sharing what's raw in the moment and unhealed, but you do get to share your personal journey of things you've been through so that people can connect with you. Gary Vee, I was listening to him a couple months ago. My dad actually sent me this recording, which is fantastic. I want to say he was in Mexico City. If you haven't heard this talk, I recommend go listening to it. He says you need to be on social media because the time is now. In my opinion, it's red ocean, but you need to be on there because it's not going to be here for forever. There is a time where this platform is going to shift. The phone, the way people are accessing social media through the phone or through the computer is going to change. Soon it's going to be basically glasses that everybody's wearing, and the phone will be obsolete. Everything that you can get will be on a pair of glasses or something like that. where it's going to shift the way people have access to you. And if you let the next 5 to 10 years go by, I don't even think it's 10 years, probably sooner than that. But if you let the next so many years go by and you're not on social media and you're not starting to build your brand, you're going to be really behind the eight ball and struggling. That's how I feel about podcasting. Podcasting, if you want to get out there and be seen as somebody different and unique, you need to be podcasting because it's still open. Yes, there are a ton of podcasts out there, but most of the podcasters don't last past 10 episodes because they're looking for those sponsorships. They're like, I'm going to launch my podcast and I'm going to monetize because people are going to be knocking down my door to be sponsors. And that's not the case. I don't use my podcast as a way to go viral. I use it as a way to monetize. My first one is a passion project. It's all for women and empowering them to be seen and heard and sharing their voice and stepping into a vision that they may have never ever stepped into otherwise by sharing powerful stories of women who have moved through fear and overcome challenges. But the Business Growth Spotlight podcast is specifically there to gain insights into my ideal client and as an additional monetization tool. So as a revenue generator for my business. So know what you're doing when you're getting into podcasting, but my suggestion would be if you're going to use this and you're going to spend your time doing it, monetize it. Step into it strategically and as a strategic visibility platform and to strategically monetize and add revenue into your business.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's really insightful. I'm curious, how do you measure success when it comes to these different social activities? Let's say that I go to speak on a podcast. How do I determine that resulted in a sale? Is it if somebody mentions to me that they heard me on the podcast, or like, how do you attribute that activity?
That's a great question. And I don't know that we have figured that out yet, but we do offer different lead magnets and different calls to action on there. But at the end of the day, it's a visibility place for us. And when you're building a business by getting in the media, that's going to build your authority and credibility. So for people that come on my podcast, I really promote them. I highly tout them and I vet them before they come on. So for anyone that, if you're looking to get in media, podcasting is a great way to start learning your messaging, learning what your calls to action are working, but it's also a great way to build your authority and credibility. Why? Because the host has vetted you. I vet my people before they come on. So when they come on, my audience already knows I won't bring them on if they don't already know what they're talking about. If I don't believe they're an expert or they don't have certain accolades behind them, then they're not coming on the show because I want to make sure that my audience, whether it's the Be She or the Business Growth Spotlight, they're going to provide high value for my audience. So by being on a podcast, getting on that stage, you're automatically, by promoting it, going to show that you are building your authority and credibility because that person wouldn't have had you on otherwise. As far as knowing if it monetizes, when it comes to the guests on the show, we track our numbers and we have a process that we move through. Not everybody gets an offer. Not everybody is somebody that we can help. But at the end of the day, the podcast is there to serve my audience. If something happens where my guest turns into a client, great. But at the end of the day, I'm also going to see how I can help them going forward. And I've built this relationship. And that also can turn into referrals. So whether they work with us or not, I'm opening that door up for referrals for other people to come onto my podcast and possibly they will turn into clients or more referrals. I don't have a specific tracking method in place for Be She. It's not a monetizer for us right now. We want to turn that more into a movement and we haven't really figured out how we're doing that yet, but that's something we're looking into for this year is how do we really make this a movement for women? So it's not really a monetizer, it's more of an impact. And that's the monetization for us is what is the impact? How many lives are we changing? And that's not something that we can really, we don't have metrics on that for that. But that being said, yesterday, a woman was on my podcast 2 days ago and she was on the Be She and she was a referral. from somebody who was on the Business Growth Spotlight podcast. So I had a gentleman on that podcast. He said, I think I have a woman, a friend of my, one of my best friends. I think she'd be great for Be She. I said, love the intro. Her and I were introduced. She scheduled the interview. After her and I chatted, I'm like, yes, I'd love to have you on. And we showed up wearing pretty much the same thing without even knowing it. So we immediately became like these soul sisters. And she made a post all around our conversation and value she got from me listening to her and giving feedback to the audience. And she created a post. So from that, I consider that as a win, because now I created a relationship with someone who's now going to be a long-term friend. It might be virtual, but hopefully one day we'll get to meet in person. But now she's introduced me to her audience that I never even asked her to do. That I consider as a win. It may not be monetary, but if I made impact on her and we're thus impacting her audience, and now she's tagged me and now we can create more impact with my audience, to me, that's a huge win that I would have never expected, and I'm super grateful for.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So going back to what you were talking about with posting on social and you got burned out a little bit, how often do you recommend posting on social, and does that differ based on the platform that you're on?
I think it does. That's a great question, Alex. I think it does differ on the platform you're on. That being said, it really depends on each person's schedule. So if this is not something that you're doing full time, it's like if your business is more of a side hustle, then the content that you're posting might be less consistent, meaning you might not be posting every day. I'm a more of a Monday through Friday kind of poster. I'm not focused on the weekends. If we post on weekends, it might be because my team posted it or I posted something about me personally that's going on with me and my family. But I suggest like LinkedIn 3 times a week is fine. There's many of people that are successful out there not posting as much. That being said, the more you can post, obviously, the more consistent you can be posting and the more content that you could be putting out there is valuable. That being said, it needs to be valuable content. It needs to be content that people want and strategic. So if you're just posting to post, then yeah, you're going to get burnt out because it's nothing, you're not getting any traction from it. But like for Facebook, Facebook is more about connection. YouTube is more about informational. So YouTube is a great place to post your information and your teachings because it's the second largest platform behind Google as a search engine. And Google owns YouTube. So guess who's promoting YouTube when people search on Google? Google. So what happens is if somebody searches a how to do something, like YouTube is more of a how to, and everybody has a how to. If you're a doctor, you have a how to. If you're a coach, you have a how to. It's not really, you're not posting your journey. You're not posting your story. You're not getting vulnerable there. It's more of a 3 steps to XYZ type of thing. But when people search that on Google, the first things that are going to come up are the sponsors that have that information or where they can get it, those people that are paying for those spots on Google. And the second thing is going to be YouTube, anything related to YouTube that has that information on it. So any how-to information you should be posting on YouTube. Hands down, I don't think there's anybody I wouldn't say should not be posting on YouTube because people are searching all the time. Utilize that platform, take advantage of it. It's there and you can grow very fast on YouTube when done correctly. When it comes to LinkedIn, if you're B2B, if you feel your ideal clients are on there, you should be on LinkedIn. Instagram is more of it's connection, but it's also storytelling. A lot of storytelling on there, a lot of visuals. A lot of people do very well on Pinterest. I am not one person who can tell you what you should do or shouldn't do on Pinterest, but there's many businesses out there who are highly successful just by being on Pinterest. So that's a platform I think is way underutilized. LinkedIn is also underutilized if your people are there. That being said, it's starting to rise. So if you haven't been on LinkedIn and your people are there, do it now because that one is starting to get a little more busier. It's going to become in the next few years like Facebook and Instagram with all the activity. But right now it's still pretty wide open. And then you've your TikTok and your X, you've got to determine where your people are. That being said, Pick 1 to 2 platforms that you're comfortable with and that your people are on, and go all in on those platforms. And then as you're growing and you're successful on that platform, then you can start adding the other ones in. There's many people that are making 7 figures, 8 figures, and they've literally just gone all in on one platform. So you don't have to be everywhere all the time. You just have to be where your people are. That's the biggest key.
That makes a lot of sense. Awesome. Thank you, Heidi. This has been such a great episode. I really appreciate your insights. And yeah, thanks again.
Thank you, Alex. It's been such a pleasure. I appreciate your time so much.
Awesome. Thank you. And thanks everyone for listening. We'll talk to you soon.